Welcome back to Media Week. Now for a check on the media sector's performance on the share market this week. Evan Lucas from IG.
Channel 10 again is dominating the media space this week, with the revolving door at 10 continuing. We see the fifth CEO in 2.5 years being axed, with James Warburton being asked to leave, along with his Chief Marketing Officer, Tony McMaster, also moving out of the position. What's made tongues wag really strongly this week is the appointment of the new CEO in Hamish McLennan. He's a former senior exec at News Corp. He's the current chairman of online retail classifieds REA Group, which is a majority-owned stake by News as well. The same day that he was appointed, Mr McLennan picked up 3.13 million shares in 10 Group. That's just under $1 million. Really does align his strategic direction for the channel with shareholders going further forward. The News Corp link is really going to sort of put 10 in the spotlight for the next sort of 6 or 7 months. With News Corp putting the demerger of their newspapers coming in June, July, there's a real high speculation that with his appointment, there could be a takeover on the offering for 10. Really very interesting point of view with that. It's seen Channel 10 jump up 13% since the changeover. They're now at 33.5 cents after they closed at 29.5 cents on Friday. The deal does really mean that Channel 10 is now real and truly ripe for the picking. They're still under pressure with their advertisement dollar. They're still under pressure with their eyes on screens figures. And with Hamish McLennan at the front of at the helm, it'll be very interesting to see how Channel 10 does go over this period of time.
And let's look at what else is making news in the sector now with James Manning, our guest host. James, I do want to touch on 10 there because there is this speculation around the takeover. News Limited has said it's not going to happen. The regulators have already indicated they're not likely to let it happen. Why is that speculation still there?
Just the Murdoch link, I think. You know, Lachlan's on the News Corp board. You know, he's the chairman of 10. Just the link there, and people are zeroing in on this Sunday morning show. They're also involved in this Meet the Press program. But yeah, I'm just not sure why News would want to go there at the moment. They've got enough on their plate this year. They're splitting the company. They've got a lot to focus on.
And they probably won't be allowed to go there either, depending on the regulators. Now, reporting season's been going in full swing for a couple of weeks, drawing to a close. We had a few results out. And the data shows that online ad revenues are increasing, but the growth has slowed. What does that mean?
Yeah. Well, it's a bit much more mature sector now than it was a few years ago, but it was still up, you know, calendar 2012 was still up close to 20%, $3.3 billion in revenues. People like to compare it with the TV money. People say, look, it's eventually going to overtake the TV ad dollars. TV last year did about 3.7 million, so there's nearly $500 million gap still there. But on the current projections, calendar 2013, those two sectors could be neck and neck.
Isn't the issue for media companies that those online revenues aren't coming in as fast or as high as their traditional sources of revenue have been? Yeah,
and plus there's a lot more players, you know. It's just low entry to get in there, and anybody can do it. Anybody can set up a website or a blog, but in old media it's much harder to set up.
Let's talk people moves now. Bauer Media gets a former News Magazine's boss, Tony Kendall, as its sales director.
Yeah, he's taken over from Lee Monty there, so it's a good win for Bauer. So Tony's done nearly everything at News in that on the ad side of the business. He's also run the magazines division, so he's got some pretty good insights into magazines. Obviously on a no-compete clause in his contract there, because he's starting almost straight away, and he only left News at the end of last year.
And talking about news, James Murdoch making an appearance at a conference and saying that Asia and Latin America are the growth areas. Asia, yes. Why Latin America?
I just think, well, just massive populations, and you know, a lot of the, if you like, the traditional Western media maybe not exploiting that sort of what they could be doing there as well as they could have. So he thinks that's a focus. Haven't seen a lot of James Murdoch, of course, in the last couple of years. He's been sort of enjoying it out of the spotlight. He also talked a little bit about sports rights, saying, look, they're going to make sure they don't get out of hand as they sort of go about building a competitor to ESPN in the US, which will be very interesting to watch this year.
And the Australian Women's Weekly, James, putting their first openly gay star on the cover, and that's lining up with Mardi Gras. How do you think that audience will react?
Look, I don't think there'll be much reaction. You know, Ellen DeGeneres is the person on the cover. She's such a big name. It's interesting. It's a very green cover too, which is more sort of attracting the eye of people in this sector, because green's often a colour you don't use on covers. So they've sort of gone off on a bit of a brave move there. So that'll might drag in a few extra eyeballs too.
And we have the Oscars, switching to movies. A lot of action there across a range of music. How did the different studios go? Was there one standout for you?
Yeah, but only just. News Corp owns Fox. It did very well. Life of Pi, I think, isn't it? Yeah, that did very well. But they won 4 Oscars, I think. But there's a bunch of other studios also picked up 3. So I think Time Warner, Sony, NBC Universal. They also got a bunch of awards. So it was pretty evenly split this year.
Now, talking about magazines, Kirsty Clements, the former editor of Vogue Australia, she was sacked last year. She's releasing her autobiography. Is that going to be explosive?
Everyone was hoping it would be, but I don't think so, you know. The Vogue Factor is what it's called. It's out this week. There's the cover there. So look, it's a great read if you're interested in Vogue magazine or the sector, but she doesn't really come out swinging and blow the lid. There's lots of interesting stuff about. She goes into some detail the day she was sacked, which is obviously pretty interesting to nearly anybody. Then there's a lot of stuff about issues of body image and stuff like that, things that are sort of debated off in that sort of fashion sector.
And Fairfax Radio making a play for the weekend audience before the football season starts. Yeah,
that's something they haven't been in before with their stations like, they're in there at the moment with 3AW, of course. It's a big player with AFL. But in Sydney, TUE hasn't had sports rights in winter for quite a long time. 4BC up in Queensland has bought them off a competitor here in Victoria. So yeah, they're getting into that space with a chat show on weekends. Interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah, I have to watch that space. Well, let's look at the TV ratings for Week 8 for free-to-air. Channel 7 dominated this week with My Kitchen Rules taking out the top 4 positions, followed by Packed to the Rafters. Another good week for 7, James.
Yeah, look, they had 9 of the top 10 programs there, so that My Kitchen Rules still doing just amazing business, and we noticed this week it's also doing big business in New Zealand. They're running it over there, and it's caused a few schedule disruptions there too. So, you know, some people think if that show hadn't been doing so well this year, James Warburton might in fact still be in his job.
Oh, right. Well, we had dancing and singing with Idol. Now we've got cooking. When's that fad going to pass?
Look, no time soon. I mean, if you look at follow the MasterChef, the professionals, you think, well, maybe that fad has passed for that MasterChef audience on that particular arm of the franchise. But those people who like My Kitchen Rules have been doing fantastic business, and you still actually get a lot of cooking in that. There's a lot of drama between the personalities, but there's still a lot of focus on the food.
All right, turning the page, and Revenge comes in at number 6 this week, followed by 7 News Sunday and Downton Abbey. 60 Minutes did well for 9, coming in at 9th place, and The Force rounding out the top 10. Now let's take a look at pay TV ratings for Week 8. The Rugby League Charity Shield taking top spot, that's followed by India versus Australia in the cricket. That was a great match. And in 3rd and 4th, the AFL NAB Cup and the Super Rugby in 5th. Turning the page, the NRL Foundation Cup at number 6, followed by Selling Houses Australia, the NRL Trial Match at number 8, The Walking Dead at number 9, and the NAB Cup rounds out the top 10. So really another feast for sports lovers and pay TV.
Yeah, look, at this time of year we tend to sort of chop the top 10 in half to give us an idea of sport shows and non-sport programs, because 8 out of the top 10 there was sport. The official footy season hasn't even started yet, so I think we're going to have to do that pretty soon. But yeah, sport's still a massive driver. Fox Sports next week are officially launching their winter sort of schedule, if you like, and they've got some new headquarters in Sydney they're also showing off.
And sports, as we know, is the one kind of product that's doing really well that people are prepared to pay for. Now, one thing I really want to touch on today, which is close to my heart as a technology journalist, is this idea of the second screen. Now, we've had people watching their TVs, using their tablets or their smartphones, but now it's extended to the second, third and the fourth screen. How is this affecting TV viewing?
Well, the thing is that it gets a lot of hype that it is affecting it, but if the sort of good data we have so far indicates, well, it's really not. I mean, there is a lot of second screen, third screen, fourth screen, but it's not detracting from the big traditional TV, which people still turn to. So it's still very much dominant. People use it for a lot of complementary things. Sometimes they're researching a show, they might be looking at an ad. Other times they're doing completely different stuff, like catching up on their email, looking after their Twitter, you know, doing some banking, some shopping, whatever. So there is a lot of activity on in the lounge room now, but it's really not detracting yet anyway from the main TV.
And yet Network 10, we hear, says those younger viewers aren't watching, so they're going to skew their programs older. As those younger viewers who aren't watching get older, where are these networks going to go?
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're really saying they're giving up on the younger viewers. I think they're saying they'd like a few more older ones as well. I think they'd like to keep them all there together. Yeah, it'll be just interesting to see. It's like when we talk with Ed about the future of newspapers and that whole online tablet. How long will newspapers last? Nobody really knows. Everyone's still feeling their way in this space. Why there's yet no apps at all from the digital channels, or 7, 9 and 10 still don't have apps for catch-up viewing. You've really still got to go to a website and watch those shows.
Are we going to see, you think, more targeted apps where people can buy products they see in shows and so forth, and that'll be another source of revenue for the traditional network? Oh
yeah, look, it'll definitely happen. I think just the networks are holding on to. They really don't want to mess with the business model too much, to keep all the eyeballs watching 7, smaller audiences watching 7, 2 and 7, mate. But look, that'll gradually change. They'll eventually be coming on a level playing field. The major properties will always stay on 7, but I'm sure they'll have some catch-up apps soon to watch some of that 7 content. And as soon as they make sure all those eyeballs are getting counted in the ratings as well, so they can really monetise them properly.
And at what point do we say too many screens is too many screens? We're up to 4 now. Let's hope we stop there.
Yeah, I think that's got to be it, really. It's overkill, and maybe we can lose a few down the track. I think that the laptop might, is one of the things probably under pressure.
Absolutely.
People, the tablet will do for a lot of people. They will give up a computer at home and a laptop, your mobile, and that'll be it with your TV.
All right, James, great thoughts. Thanks for your company today.
Thanks, Nigel.
That's all we have time for on this week's edition of Media Week. From the team here, thanks for your company. Bridie Barry back in the seat next week.